Okay, so we're going to talk about effective estate strategies. I have a 14-plus sheet. If you want that, let me know. I'll email it to you. It's going to be a summary of what's going on here today. So why bother about an effective estate plan? Well, you wouldn't be here if you didn't love your family. Some of you have blended families, and those can be a challenge as well. There's also the issue about a funeral piece. Someone asked me about body donation. I'll get to that today if I can, and organ donation as well. And a big thing, the estate administration tax. The rules changed January 1st, 2015, and a lot of people are not aware of the reporting process and procedure and the potential penalties if not reported properly. And then we're also talking about the role of an estate trustee. It's a very honored role. You've heard a lot about that today. People say executor, yes, executor, but estate trustee is the newer term as of January 1st, 2015. So why bother? Why do any of this? I think you folks are of the mind that you would want to do some of this because, number one, you're here. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want to learn some information. So what are the three cornerstones that I talk to often are the funeral planning piece. And people ask me, well, why do that? My family knows what I want. I hear that over and over again. My family knows what I want. How could they possibly know what you want if you don't talk about it? How could they possibly know what you want if you've never written anything down? How could they possibly know what you want if you haven't funded a funeral file? So the funeral piece, the will, and notifying people are key things I want to talk to, amongst other effective estate strategies. I have to stay rather still or this mouse isn't going to keep working, and you're going to be jumping back and forth. So the funeral piece. So why prepay a funeral? When people prepay a funeral, the rules have changed slightly in Ontario. Funeral homes must guarantee the future cost. Listen to the wording, it's complicated, there's a lot of words here. The funeral home must guarantee the future cost of a fully funded funeral. Did you get that? Fully funded funeral. So whatever goods and services are selected, picked, or wanted, when they're paid for in full, the funeral home has to guarantee the future price. This means the inflationary risk is entirely on the shoulders of a funeral home. This wasn't always the case. Funeral homes could choose to guarantee the future cost or not. Now they must. Okay, huge difference there. So the funerals, how much are funerals? People ask me that. Direct cremation can be anywhere from $3,000 up to a traditional funeral with an expensive casket could be up to $18,000, $20,000. Do people want to spend that? No. People tell me this all the time. I don't want a fancy funeral. I'd rather leave the money for my fill in the blank, whoever it is, right? But the point to this is having a plan in place. And I'm not crazy about having funeral directions in a will. Why? Wills are looked at after the funeral. It's pretty obvious to me. Some people say, oh no, it should be in the will. Okay, well fine, I'll tell you a story about a family whose dad never talked about anything. Cremation's more than 6% of the time now, so the family thought, oh well, I guess we'll cremate Dad. Then they read the will, he wanted to be buried. Oops. You can't uncremate someone. We don't have that technology. We probably never will. So they have to live with that decision that had he even put a plan or a piece of paper or a letter of direction somewhere, the family could have known what he wanted. So the funeral is one part. I am such a stickler for wills. I am not a lawyer. Hear that loud and clear. I'm not a lawyer. But you need a will. And people will say to me, well, Kat, I don't have an estate. And I'll say, I spoke to a group of younger people who were volunteers for police identity theft, all young people. They all had their phone on a desk in front of them. Every single one had a smartphone or iPhone or whatever, and they're all ringing and buzzing and texting while I'm talking. And I say, how dare you? I'm rather interesting, you know. You better pay attention. So they said to me, well, we're young. We don't need a will. I said, well, how'd you get here? Well, I drove. And all of you have smartphones in front of you. So those are assets. You need a will. It doesn't matter. The government figures you have an estate if you have $1,000 or more. It would be everybody's wish to die with $50 in the bank, but that doesn't happen. All right? If you have more than $1,000, the government thinks you have an estate. So you need a will. A will is someone saying what you want done after you die. They are your personal voice when you can no longer speak. You do need a will. Do I get a few more minutes, Mary, because of technical problems? Okay, maybe. Notifying people. Oops. Part of what I put together as a teacher and writing curriculum for 20 years is I realized a big gap between people wanting to take care of business and not knowing what that looked like or how to start. So I wrote this workbook. It's available hard copy or PDF. And it's $20 if you buy it here today. It's more if you buy it later or online. So it takes you through all of the things I'm talking about today. And I'm going to share a painful personal story with you. My dad died in June of 2014, and my mom and I and my brother forgot to notify my mom's brother's family. My mom still talks about that. We didn't tell them. They didn't know. We forgot. It wasn't malice. It wasn't any of that. It was an oversight. So if you have friends and families and groups and associations that you belong to that your kids would probably not know about, it would be a dandy idea to have a list that's up to date, to notify people, telephone, email, whatever it is you prefer. The other thing I'm adamant about is powers of attorney. This is so important. This is why I love supporting and promoting Mary. This is huge. There's 2 powers of attorney in Ontario, one for personal care and one for property. So the property personal care can come into effect from the point it's signed and witnessed. The witness cannot be the power of attorney. Be careful on that. The power of attorney for personal care comes into effect in the event of mental incapacity. The witnesses, again, cannot be people who are paid to provide you care or whom you have named to be a power of attorney. These are important documents to have in place. There's 4 cornerstones: your will, your power of attorney personal care, your power of attorney for property, and a prepaid funeral plan. Another one I'd like to add today is a travel repatriation product. That's the travel protection. The pamphlets are at the back. And as soon as I open this file in your mind about someone dying away from home, you're going to bring in a story that you heard. Someone who stepped off a curb and got hit by a bus in Mexico. Someone who was scuba diving and drowned in Florida. Somebody who got hit by a motor vehicle in Italy. Not hard to do, they drive like maniacs. So, what would happen if you died away from home? We have a travel repatriation product that a lot of people are not aware of. This is a Canadian-owned company, and all of the arrangements are done, organized, and paid for to bring cremated remains back or the body. This is enormously inexpensive. You buy it once, $499.46. You buy it once. You've got the coverage the rest of your life. I've been doing this 20 years. My daughter was 2 when I became a licensed funeral director, and I bought this for her when she was 2. They said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, it's a no-brainer. I pay once, she's covered the rest of her life. She's going to be traveling with me or on her own." So I bought that. So as an example, to give you a cost comparison, we recently sent a man's cremated remains back to Russia because that's what he wanted. Have you ever traveled to Russia? Have you prepared the 25 pages of documents of history they want to know where you've worked in your banking before they'll let you into Russia as a tourist? Have you done that? The packet of documents is huge. So for this man to have cremated remains sent back to Russia, we knew what we had to do. We had to work through it systematically. The consulate fees alone to Russia were $1,200, and the packet of information and documents for cremated remains was easily that thick. So if you compare the other way, if someone were to die in the Philippines, for example, and bring them back to a funeral home in Ontario, you'd be north of $16,000 to do that. So if this is something you'd like to know more about, reach out, contact me. You can pay it by MasterCard or Visa. It's a really simple application. So don't leave home without it. What if you died away from home? What would your family do? They'd have no clue where to start. They would think they're being taken because if you died in Florida, for example, you're going to have to pay about $7,000 right away before they'll do anything for you. So don't leave that risk for your family. If this is of interest to you, let's chat. Prepaid funeral arrangements. A lot of misconceptions out there that if someone prepays a funeral, the funeral home has the money. Absolutely not true. We have federal rules, we have provincial rules, we have professional legislation. So I'll start with the government. The government, CRA, Canada Revenue Agency, has a special tax bulletin. If you're a detailed person and want that tax bulletin, let me know. I'll email it to you gladly. CRA says that money set into a prepaid funeral plan is the purchaser's money. It has to be guaranteed and insured to $100,000. Just as you go to the bank, you have CDIC bank coverage. Assurus is the reinsurer for prepaid funeral plans to $100,000. Further, you must earn tax-exempt interest on your money. And currently the rate's 1.75%. When I started 20 years ago, people were earning 4% on prepaid funeral plans. So then your next question would be, because you're smart and you're here, and you're going to tell all your friends how wonderful I am so I can go and speak somewhere else that you belong to. This one lady 20 years ago set up a prepaid funeral plan, and she just died this past year. She had excess funds in her funeral plan north of $7,000. $235 and change. That money was refunded to her estate. Her family was completely blown away that her mom had loved them enough 20 years ago to set out what she wanted, let them know what it was there, and let them know it was paid for, and in the end, they could fulfill her wishes and get a refund. That family was ecstatic. They couldn't believe it. And the other side of it is true as well. If the interest growth on the prepaid funeral plan is too small, then the funeral home has to absorb the loss. And does this happen? Yes. The losses can be anywhere from $500 to a couple thousand. The average last year was around $756. The funeral home has to absorb the loss, okay? It's your money, it's insured, it's protected, it's earning tax-exempt interest. Talking to life insurance now. If you have life insurances, be sure you have an up-to-date beneficiary named on your life insurance. Secondly, have a backup beneficiary named. One gentleman I worked with, part of what I do, and it seems to be falling into the arena of people with physical disabilities. People hire me to help them organize their important paperwork because, number one, they don't feel like doing it or they would have done it by now, right? If you like doing paperwork, you would have done it by now. They don't want to do it or physically they're not able to do it. So this one man had $100,000 life insurance. His wife is the beneficiary. They have one daughter. And I asked him to consider adding his daughter as a second backup beneficiary. He said, well, Kat, why would I do that? I want this money to go to my wife. That's why he got the insurance. That makes sense. So, well, what if your wife died before you? And what if your mental capacity is not there? And now you can't name a backup beneficiary because you're not of mental capacity. So I strongly encourage you, call the insurance company, ask for a backup beneficiary form, which he did, and added his daughter. So his wife first, then his daughter. So if that's your situation, have a look at your insurances and be sure they're the way you want. Also, splitting up, divorcing, separating. I've heard cases where people don't change their former spouse's name on insurance. And do you think the new chickie poo is going to give $100,000 to the first wife? That's not going to happen. So be sure your beneficiaries are the way you want. Joint assets can be a bit of a hot topic. If it works for you to have your home named with joint tenancy with right of survivorship, that makes sense. One lady I was working with, her father died, and a very good friend in the family, his wife died. This is a pretty common scenario. This couple, the four of them had gone out, dinners, dances, they'd vacationed together for 40 years. Both their spouses died. They got together and they got married because whatever the reasons, it doesn't matter. Well, the mom had the home and she had it in his name. So when she died first, his kids sold the house because it was in his name, took the assets of the house, and the mom's family got nothing. So be careful. Be careful with that. For many people, their home is the biggest asset, especially here in King City and especially in the last few years. Housing has gone absolutely crazy. Joint bank accounts. Also be cautious there. If you have children who you think their marriage might be in jeopardy and they separate or divorce, the spouse could claim their spouse's share of the joint bank account, which would come to 25% if you've got a joint bank account. There's reasons for it, but obviously every family has their own dynamics, so what is it that works for you? Investments, anything you can name a beneficiary on, do that. If you're not, I'm not a financial person, you've got your financial advisors through Mary's network or your own, whatever. But anything you can name a beneficiary on, consider doing that. Segregated funds, I'm a very big fan of segregated funds for the following reasons. Segregated funds are life insurance based. I have my life insurance licenses and my funeral director's license. I'm also a certified executor advisor. So segregated funds are a way to hold investments in an insurance company, which now means you can name a beneficiary. So there's tax advantages to that. Again, everyone's situation could be a little different, so be sure you're asking all the questions you need to ask. And all of this is on that 14+ sheet if you want that. Whatever you own solely in your name will be part of estate administration tax in the end. Some people have awesome collections, and if you go away with one thing from me today, just one, of course there's many more, right? One thing is we all have too much stuff. I'm just looking at the season changing into changeover clothes, and to be honest with you, I've got 3 different sizes. It's like, seriously, what are you going to do here, Kat? You're going to get rid of this? You're going to get into this? Or is this just worn out? You know, that's just clothing. So a couple strategies there. If you have collections, have them appraised while you're alive. Better yet, if you'd like someone to have them, give them with a warm hand. Give them when you're alive. And enjoy people enjoying what you've enjoyed. Does that make sense to you? A lady I worked with on Friday, the common law partners, they have a house in Hamilton. It's 3 floors. He died quickly. They didn't have time to get organized. That's the other thing. This kind of form that Mary's facilitating is giving you the gift of time to take action. Don't just sit here and take notes. Take action and do some of the things that appeal to you most. And if you're not sure how to prioritize, reach out. Let's have a conversation. Okay? So this man, young guy, 67, that's not very old. Their house is full. of contracting tools, contracting materials, extra flooring, extra lumber, chop saws, on and on and on and on. She doesn't know what this stuff is worth. And that's the other thing. If you have collections that are significant, art, jewelry, I've met a family that has metal toys and trucks. Vintage metal toys and trucks in good condition are worth a lot of money. So take care of downsizing that collection or giving it away. Coins, stamps, jewelry. Do not name these assets in your will. If you do, they're going to have to be officially appraised. Your executor will not be able to say, oh, I think they're worth $500. You'll have to have it officially appraised because there's an audit process now with this state information return. Investments, likewise. I think one of the messages I've heard others saying today is to be organized and write things out. Especially if you're on the computer, make sure your usernames and passwords are written down. I can think of at least a dozen people so far this year where their spouse was on the computer and they didn't really do so much of that, which it's not a judgment, it's just the way they worked things. And the other spouse has no clue of a password to even get into the computer. And I'm not even exaggerating this. This is such a real thing. Or presence on social media. A colleague of mine died 4 years ago, and still on LinkedIn every once in a while her picture comes up and asks to be a friend. It's shocking. You know, Facebook, you know, how do you take down a Facebook page? Do you want to take down a Facebook page? Do you want to leave it as a memorial and let people still add to it? These are things to think through, but usernames and passwords, there's a way to write them down in this book. Okay, this slide, I like the Ohio rule. It's not my idea. I did get it from someone else, and sadly I don't know who to give it credit to anymore, but only handle it once. Only handle it once. If you're brave enough, and you'll share with me, how many of you have a catch-all corner in the kitchen? Oh yeah, I'll put that there. You go and check the mail, the flyers, plunk. You get the stuff there. Have one spot for things, and my best wish for you is everything that's important is in one spot. I thought that was easy, and I thought I was organized. And I'd read a book that I thought, oh, that's cool, I'll get myself organized. I'll do that today. Wasn't today, wasn't even a couple hours. I had my insurances in one spot, my financial papers in another spot, my will in another spot, my passport in another spot. So I'm really huge on getting people organized to one spot. There's very few people who have shared with me that they say, Kat, when we go away, our kids are so sick of hearing this, but we put the black binder in the middle of the dining room table. There's our stuff. No guesses, no wondering, it's all in one spot. So recognizing this isn't exciting for a lot of people, set yourself a goal. Put on a timer. Do one drawer a day. Do one part of a closet a day. Hire people to help you. There's people who do this. And you know what the big thing is? I do paper. I'm not doing your clothes and tools and all that. I've done that for my parents. They've moved 5 times. I'm really good at this, but I'm not sorting through attics and basements anymore. I'm not doing that. There's people who do that. If you want to know who does it, ask me. They're colleagues of mine. I refer to them often enough. I'll do your paper. You know what? Because I'm not emotionally engaged to your sewing machine receipt from 1972. We don't need that. We don't need your hydro bill from 1985. You might like to be paying that hydro bill from 1985 compared to 2018, but you know, make sense of what you are keeping in place. And there was a cartoon I've seen circulating around once in a while. It comes up again. Just look, son, you open a garage door, it's chock full. You open an attic, it's chock full. You look at the basement, it's chock full. Look at here, son, this is all yours one day. Yikes. You know, I told you my parents had moved 5 times before Dad died. They'd moved 5 times. And then at the end, they moved to assisted living. Mom's biggest fear was having a bin out in the driveway. She was terrified of having a bin in the driveway. Now, mind you, they'd moved 5 times, so rather fortunate that way. But there's people who have 50, 60 years of stuff in one spot. It's still there. And you look at that whole elephant and you think, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. Well, sometimes tomorrow comes a little faster than you think. And now someone else has a great big mess to clean up. If you want your things valued, take care of what you value now. Give it with a warm hand. When I turned 50, my mom took this ring off her finger and said, now it's your turn to wear it. And that was only last year, by the way, so. And so, yeah, she knew I liked this ring. Now my oldest daughter's looking at it. I said, you're not 50 yet, so you're gonna have to wait. So start. First person who emails me that they cleaned a drawer or a closet after this is gonna get my book for free. Are you on? Yeah. Okay, you have to email and tell me you did something from what you've heard today. Because it's nice to get good information, it's nice to be fed and watered, it's nice to see your friends, but it's a lot better to do something. Are you hearing that? Start, do something, whoever you've heard from others too. And celebrate your success. Right? Yeah. Whatever that looks like to you. Go have an ice cream, put on your favorite music, have a dance, have a drink if you want, go out to a movie, celebrate your success. Because this isn't all dreary, have some fun with it. Put on your favorite tunes and say, this drawer is getting done today. Keep giveaway garbage. It's only 3 choices, folks. Keep giveaway, well, donate, not garbage. I don't mean garbage, I mean pass it forward to others who could use it. Donate, thank you.
And sell.
And well, selling, let's go to selling for a minute. If you're patient, I still like garage sales and yard sales, and I went to the Christie Lake Auction and Vintage Show after Labor Day. It's on the Saturday after Labor Day. Still way too much stuff there. I thought the prices were enormously ridiculous, and there was nothing that caught my eye that said, oh, I'd like that. So there are at Kijiji, there's websites like that, but be careful. And you're gonna have to spend a lot of time being home or meeting somebody who won't show up. And you'll tell them the price is 20 bucks and they'll say, I'll give you 5. So if you're good with all that, you go right ahead, knock yourself out. Personally, that doesn't appeal to me one bit. I'd rather donate it and it's gone. If that's what you want.
No, I have a full set of snow tires for my previous car. They don't fit my new car.
Put them on Kijiji. Well, some people don't know how to do that, and you'd be surprised. That's a business that's coming up now. People will help you post, they'll help you sell, they'll be with you so you're safe when you're doing all this. Well, it's an opportunity, right? So organize your stuff, simplify your world, record what you have and where it is. Again, this book will help you do that. I cannot stress this enough. Part of what I do is a continuing care program as well. So what this means is I meet with families, usually the surviving spouse, after a loved one's died. I help them apply for the CPP death benefit, the spousal pension, close off the OHIP cards so there won't be fraudulent use of that, social insurance number, passport. I help them make phone calls to cancel credit cards, claim life insurance, whatever it is for them. My biggest learning piece this year was firearms. I was going to say deadly serious, but I did say it. So, if you have firearms that you're going to give to someone, or rifles or shotguns, or there's so many different classes of firearms. I never even knew any of this. So if you're that kind of person, again, no judgment. If you have those things that you want someone to have, I am begging and imploring you to gift them when you're alive. It's absolutely horrific if you're trying to do this when someone has died. So if any of you folks hear something there or know someone who has rifles, goes hunting or whatever, Please bequeath them with a warm hand, or sell them, or if you don't want anyone to have them, call the RCMP, and they'll help you get rid of them properly. Please, please, please do that, because firearms are a huge, huge pain in the you-know-what. Record your wishes, what you have, what you want, and why. And the biggest thing is communicate your wishes. So this is what else I facilitate, is family meetings between the estate trustee and the executor. You know, what do you have? Where are the gaps? What do we need to fill in? How can I help you? How can I refer you? And then another man said to me, Kat, you know what, I get what you're talking about, but my daughter's 35. So let's just say he's 60, whatever. He says, I get what you're saying, but I don't think she needs to know what I have at 35 years of age. I said, that's fair. I get that too. I said, but I would strongly urge you to have it all in one spot so she knows where that spot is. Okay? Do you get that? One spot. All your stuff in one spot. The other side of that is families whose one girl comes to, well, she's not a girl, she's got her own family as well. Her dad died suddenly. They didn't necessarily talk, they got along, but she knew nothing about if he had a will, what kind of assets he had, if he had life insurance. You could have pulled her down through the rafters from the church in King City. She was so strung, beyond herself, panicked to know where even to start. And what happens here is that turns into anger. And people start to think, why didn't they tell me that? I wish I'd known that. Would have made all of this so much easier. And the other point to communicate your wishes is we never know when our mental capacity will not be there. It can change like that, your mental capacity. Once you know, I know too. Once your mental capacity changes, then it's hard to change wills and powers of attorney and communicate wishes. So I don't want you to sit there feeling depressed. I want you to be energized and excited. I want you to reach out to me if you need help or have questions, and get rid of some of your stuff. I'll read this for you. This is my sense of humor. If you're offended by this, then we'll probably never work together, because I think this is a riot. So this is a sign outside an antique store. It says dead people's stuff, and it's closed. So the estate administration tax is called probate. I have to move along a little bit faster here, but there will be fees paid to the province of Ontario for the assets that you owned and the value of them on the date of your death. So that's what estate administration tax is. Most people are still saying probate, but it really should be estate administration tax now. Very quickly, it's 0.5% on the first 50,000 and 1.5% on the money after that. And that's paid to the Ministry of Finance. It's payable. This is something I want you to hear too. I don't know if the others have stressed this morning, but there's a lot of misunderstanding here. The estate administration tax has to be paid to the Ministry of Finance within 90 days of receiving a certificate of appointment as an estate trustee. I wrote a blog on that. If you want it, let me know. I'll send it to you. Okay? Easier than trying to write all that down. So it is due within 90 days. There are appeal and review and penalties to that if you don't report promptly, if you don't report fully, if you don't report adequately. So there's big penalties to this if you don't do it right. And why? Why do you think the government has an estate administration tax? Because they can. Because they can, because they want some more money. So, protecting your estates. I've mentioned some of these. Make sure you have beneficiaries named. Make sure you have backup beneficiaries named. If anybody owes you money, make sure you've got that written somewhere. Ideally, they signed a letter saying they owed you money. Otherwise, that's a gift. Did you hear that? If you don't have something signed that's an IOU type of thing, that's a gift. Because all of a sudden, they don't remember getting it. You know? And if you didn't do it as a money order or something, you might not have a record that you actually did give it. So be careful. You work hard for your money. Most families have that cherry-picking black shepherd sheep child. It's usually the one who lives closest and needs mom or dad's car and money the most. They have a key, they live closest. They come in and cherry-pick what they want when mom or dad dies, and what do you think the other brothers and sisters feel like? Yeah. Yeah, they're not very happy. Then everybody gets all lawyered up, and lawyers are nice and happy at $650 an hour or more. So play nice. Play nice in the same sandbox. Be organized. Tell people what you have and where it is and what you want done with it. And I'm not discounting the sibling who may have trouble managing money for whatever reasons, addiction, ability, whatever it is. So if that's your situation, you talk to a lawyer about a Henson Trust, because there's ways to manage that as well. Now, I spoke to OHIP numbers and social insurance numbers. If you're married, here's my challenge for you. The first one who goes home today and tells me they found their marriage certificate will also get a free book. Are you on? Okay, do you want to know why? Do you want to know why? Come on, this is your turn. Why? Okay, good, thank you. So, I want you to find your marriage certificate if you're married, because when you do the CPP spousal pension benefit application, you have to show the marriage certificate. They'll take a copy, or you can get a notarized copy, but they want to see proof of the date of your marriage, which you're putting into this form. Okay? So who's on to get that this afternoon?
I can tell you where mine is right now.
No, you have to email me. That won't work. I don't want a copy of it. What am I talking about? Simplifying here? I don't want your marriage certificate. Passports. Strangely enough, even though a passport's a really important document, we don't legally have to close it off with the government. Okay, so what to do? I have to go quick. I'm too slow here on some parts. Make sure you tell people if you have pension money somewhere. That's a hard thing for people to find. If you have pension income or life insurance from a pension, be sure someone knows that, because sometimes that's hard to trace. And if you have a pension from England or another country, make sure somebody knows where that number is, because that's important too. Okay. So now what? So you're not alone. I'm here to help as a resource. Speaking for Mary, I'm sure she is as well. The book is there for purchase. We can have a conversation about what you need and how I can help you. Don't forget, I mentioned the travel protection. And also at the back, if you're thinking about cremation, there's 16 kind of short questions to help you think through that, because there's more to being cremated than just saying, I want to be cremated, okay? It's my absolute pleasure to be here. God bless you and keep you. My time's done for now.